All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis est. Hypergamy's Hypocrisy, Why Men Can't Win and Shouldn't Try, written by Connie Riker. Available now, links in description. The Geraba. How the Elite Tax Your Soul While Flying Private. Title under 8 words, colon. Subtitle under 24 words, no colon inside either part. Then, I watched her descend from the jet, Dr. Winona. The shawl was hand-woven, tagged ethical, stitched by hands she'd never shake. She stood on the soapbox in the town square and pointed at the man with the wrench, the one kneeling in hot asphalt, fixing what no one else would fix, and she called his labor extractive. She said it with the practiced tremor of someone who'd rehearsed tears in a bathroom mirror. The crowd nodded. The slogans came like liturgy. Impact matters more than intent. Center the earth's voice. This is not up for debate. Do better. Educate yourself. Your comfort is my colonization. Each one a velvet brick. Each one designed to feel like mercy while functioning as a lock. She seized his wrench, his livelihood, his craft, the grammar of his competence, and threw it into a hedge, declaring the hedge more alive than the man who'd spent 20 years keeping the road from swallowing the town. This is the trick. It looks like compassion. It wears compassion's skin, speaks with its voice, carries its signage. The ideology presents itself as the defender of the weak, the voiceless, the earth itself. Who could be against justice? Who could oppose care? The trap is that the words have been gutted and restuffed with their opposites. Safety means obedience. Harm means disagreement. Violence means a question. The whole vocabulary is a confiscated church wearing vestments it stole from the very tradition it intends to burn. And the congregation is so moved by the robes that nobody checks whether the altar is real or made of plywood and diesel fumes. But there's a demon in the pulpit, and it has a name: vainglory, the ancient name for the vice that performs virtue for an audience because the audience is the virtue. Her private jet casts no shadow in her theology. His wrench casts all of them. Once you name the pattern, the projection of guilt onto the competent, the inversion of sacrifice into extraction, the immunity of the accuser from her own standard, the spell cracks like cheap plaster. Logos walks in. The word that names things what they are, that separates the real from the performed, that asks the single detonating question, the whole theater was built to prevent. If your virtue costs you nothing, is it a gift or a demand? She has no answer. She was never meant to. The play was never about the earth, the poor, or justice. It was always about the woman on the box, and the box was always built on the backs of men she'd convinced to feel guilty for carrying her.
Dr. Winona's demonstration. I remember the moment with the clarity of a wound that refuses to scar over. It was a Tuesday, the town square. A man sweating, grunting, white, middle-aged, was on his knees in the gravel, patching a pothole with the grim satisfaction of someone who has never once interrogated why holes exist or whose labor is extracted to fill them. His hands gripped a steel wrench the way his ancestors gripped deeds. He looked up at me with that expression I have catalogued in 17 peer-reviewed articles, the vacant, muscular confidence of someone who believes that utility excuses violence. I had just returned from Geneva 12,000 nautical miles of carbon offset through a registered reforestation trust in Paraguay, purchased through a women-owned cooperative. Naturally, the UN sessions had been grueling. I had spoken on a panel about the feminization of climate displacement. My throat still felt raw from the dry January. I hadn't quite started. I needed rest, reflection, and a matcha. Instead, I found him. "Excuse me," I said. Not a question. An entry point. He grunted something about fixing the road so people don't swerve into oncoming traffic. I closed my eyes. I breathed. I felt the square's geology beneath my cruelty-free flats, the packed earth remembering every carriage, every constable, every foreclosure auction held on its surface. "You understand," I said, "that this road is a vector of dispossession. Every car that passes here is a rolling tombstone for the global south, and you are maintaining it. You are the mechanic of extinction." He squinted at me. "Lady, I'm filling a hole. Send to the earth's voice," I said. "Just for a moment. Can you do that?" He went back to his wrench. That is when I saw it clearly. The wrench was not a tool. It was a phallic instrument of spatial domination. Every turn of the bolt was a sentence passed on the biosphere. I had read Foucault. I had read Pellow. I knew that infrastructure is not neutral. It is the frozen ideology of the powerful congealed in concrete and maintained through the complicit sweat of men like this one, who never ask permission from the land they scar. I reached out and took the wrench from his hand. He stared at me. "What are you?" "This is not up for debate," I said. My voice was measured, therapeutic. "I have training in restorative circle facilitation. Your comfort is my colonization. The comfort of a smooth road is purchased with the discomfort of the entire Pacific Rim. I am de-escalating this situation." I turned and I threw the wrench into the hedge. The hedge absorbed it, a small green act of refusal. The hedge was more alive than his entire economic philosophy. I felt something lift from my chest. A therapist once told me this is called somatic release. I call it justice. "Your labor is extractive," I said. "You are not helping this community. You are entrenching its dependence on a carceral mobility regime that displaces indigenous lifeways. Impact matters more than intent." I know you feel helpful. That feeling is the architecture of oppression. "You just threw my wrench in a bush," he said. "And you just spent 20 minutes reinforcing settler infrastructure for free while single mothers 3 blocks from here cannot afford solar panels. That is the bush I am trying to pull us all out of. Do better." He told me to. Well, I will not reproduce the language. It was a gendered slur. It was, in fact, a microaggression nested inside a macroaggression, wrapped in a calloused hand pointing at me, as though I were the unreasonable one. I documented it. I always document. What he could not understand, what they can never understand, because understanding would require dismantling the self, is that my proposal for a resilience tax was not about money, it was about relation. A modest annual contribution from each homeowner in this district, perhaps 600 scaled progressively, would fund the Luminosa Center for Regenerative Practice, a carbon-neutral residential learning lodge I have been developing with an Indigenous advisory circle, Zoom-based, asynchronously consultative. The lodge will host retreats, decolonization workshops, and a seasonal speaker series. It will have a saltwater pool. It will run on solar. Currently, it runs on a diesel generator, but only temporarily, and only because the patriarchal permitting process at the county level has been weaponized to stall visionary infrastructure. The diesel is provisional oppression. I should not have to explain this. The man in the square did not ask about the lodge. He asked about the math, he said. "So I pay you $600 a year and you fly to Davos on a private jet." I felt my face flush, not with shame, with recognition. This is the gaslighting. This is the epistemic violence. He was taking my genuine, transparent, vulnerable participation in global climate diplomacy and reducing it to a transactional gotcha. As though the jet does not have carbon offsets. As though I did not personally select the caterer for the in-flight meal based on their composting practices. as though my body, exhausted, hemorrhaging emotional labor for a dying planet, does not deserve pressurized cabin comfort at 40,000 feet after a 14-hour plenary on intergenerational climate trauma. You are defending the status quo, I told him. You are defending a world that is killing everything, and you are defending it with a wrench. And you're defending it with a diesel generator, he muttered. I smiled. This is what they do. They find the one crack in your practice, the diesel, the jet, the 100 ethical shawl whose supply chain you have not personally audited, and they use it to discredit the entire architecture of liberation. It is a classic Darvo maneuver. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. He was the oppressor. He was maintaining a road built on stolen land with stolen materials. And somehow, in his story, I was the villain because I asked him to contribute to a lodge that will, once the permitting clears, produce its own kimchi and host poetry circles for climate grief. Your comfort is my colonization, I said again, softer this time, because it is not a slogan, it is a diagnosis. His comfort, the comfort of the smooth road, the paid property tax, the wrench, the Tuesday, the pothole, requires my colonization. Requires the colonization of the earth, of women's bodies, of indigenous memory, of the future itself. My lodge is not a luxury. It is a reparative intervention. It is the medicine. And like all medicine, it costs something. He should pay. They should all pay. Not because I am punitive. I am the least punitive person I know. My Enneagram type is a 9 for heaven's sake. But because justice without material redistribution is just therapy with a hashtag. I am not interested in his feelings. I am interested in his wallet. The earth is interested in his wallet. History is interested in his wallet. Be on the right side of history, I said. Educate yourself. I can send you a reading list. I'd rather have my wrench back, he said. I looked at the hedge. The wrench was gone, swallowed, returned to the wild. Something in me felt clean. Something in me felt like the world had, for 1 second, tilted back toward balance. He called me a name. I forgave him silently. Forgiveness is power. I have read Hooks. I have read Lord. I have read Marcuse. I know that tolerance, extended to the intolerant, is repression of the tolerant. I know that repressive tolerance is the last gasp of liberal complacency. I know that his free speech is my silencing. I know that his logic is my erasure. I know that his math is my grave. And so I stood there, in the square, shawl-draped hair, unwashed for climate reasons, throat dry, heart cracked open like a Peruvian glacier, and I spoke. Not to him, he was beyond reach, sealed in his iron certainties, his phallic bolt turning, his pothole theology. I spoke to the crowd that had gathered. The young ones, the scared ones, the ones whose eyes were open. This is not up for debate, I said. The earth is speaking. She is screaming. And if you cannot hear her because a man with a wrench is too loud, then you are not listening, you are complying, you are colonizing, and I paused. I will not comply. I will not be complicit. I will not be silent so that his comfort can continue uninterrupted on a road he patched with stolen minerals and unexamined rage. They clapped. Some of them, the right ones.
What the scene reveals. The moment the mask slipped, a man knelt in gravel, patching a pothole. He held a wrench. He was performing what civilizations since Rome have called public works, the unglamorous labor that keeps carts from overturning and children from dying. Dr. Winona descended from a private jet, freshly returned from a UN panel, wrapped in a shawl stitched by children she would never meet, and informed him that his wrench was a phallic instrument of spatial domination. His labor was extractive, and the pothole he was filling was a vector of dispossession. Then she took his wrench and threw it into a hedge. The hedge, she declared, was more alive than his livelihood. This is the moment the mask slipped, not because the scene was absurd. Absurdity is now institutional policy, but because the contradiction was total and naked and performed in daylight. A woman who flies private demanding that a man on his knees pay a tax to fund her diesel-powered eco-lodge is not a paradox. It is a diagnosis. The word for the spirit on display does not yet exist in any dictionary, because the spirit invents its own vocabulary as it goes and forbids you from using the old words to name it. So we must build the word now. The Geriba, the quick-burning certainty that arrives like revelation, demands the world reshape itself to fit a feeling and leave scorch marks where standards once stood. The man asked for math. He received a sermon. He asked for his wrench. He received a reading list. This is the tell. The Geriba does not negotiate with reality. It replaces reality with narrative, then charges you rent for living in the narrative it built on top of your labor. The demons in the room. 5 spirits moved through Dr. Winona's performance, and each one wears a familiar face. The first and ruling spirit is the one the old moralists called the Queen of Vices, the refusal to receive any order, limit, or truth as a gift. This is the spirit that looks at a hierarchy of competence and sees only oppression, that looks at a wrench and sees domination, that looks at a man fixing a road and sees a criminal maintaining a carceral mobility regime. It is the refusal to be a creature. It insists the self is sovereign, the world is raw material, and any discomfort is injustice. Its positive form, nobility of spirit, magnanimity, the drive toward excellence, is the noble reputation earned through actual public service. But the Geriba does not serve. It performs service for an audience, then bills the audience for the performance. Dr. Winona's speech was longer than her sacrifice. Her virtue required a crowd. Without applause, it would evaporate. The second spirit hurls its own shadow outward and calls the shadow you. Dr. Winona stood before a man performing unpaid civic labor and called him extractive. She who extracts tax revenue for a diesel generator called the man with the wrench a parasite. This is not hypocrisy in the ordinary sense. It is a precise mechanism. The projector cannot tolerate the sight of her own appetite, so she mounts it on the nearest male body and points. Her private jet becomes his pothole. Her diesel becomes his steel. Her shawl, stitched by hands she will never shake, becomes his unexamined privilege. The remedy for projection has always been the same. Look in the mirror, name the thing, confess it, and carry it home where it belongs. The third spirit dissolves distinctions until language becomes fog. It redefines sacrifice to mean someone else pays. It redefines justice to mean my preference. It redefines violence to mean disagreement. When the man asked for the math, Dr. Winona called his arithmetic epistemic violence. She was not using words to communicate. She was using words as incantations, sounds designed to disable the listener's capacity to respond. The positive form of dissolution is creative openness, the willingness to revise categories when reality demands it. But this spirit does not revise. It demolishes, it leaves no name stable enough to stand on, because unstable names are easier to tax. The fourth spirit burns without justice. It took the wrench not because the wrench was dangerous, but because the wrench was male. It was steel. It was function. It was the physical grammar of a civilization built by men who understood that roads require gravel and gravel requires hands. The fire that seized Dr. Winona's arm was not righteous indignation at a genuine wrong. It was rage at the symbol itself, at the idea that a man would dare to be competent in public without her permission. Clean anger, the mean between servile sulking and unhinged fury, sees an actual injustice and moves toward repair with proportion. This anger saw competence and moved toward vandalism. The fifth and most pitiable spirit simply refuses to grow up. It demands that others fix the road while it rests in a lodge. It demands that others pay the tax while it shops for matcha. It writes panels about climate displacement and displaces nothing but its own discomfort with adult duty. Its positive form is contemplation, rest, reflection, the Sabbath that gives labor its meaning. But the Geriba does not rest after work. It avoids work and calls the avoidance advocacy. It speaks for the earth, so the earth cannot ask it to pick up a shovel. How the trick works. The trick is not complicated. It is engineered to look complicated so that the mark feels too embarrassed to ask the obvious question. Here is the mechanism. A slogan replaces a premise. The slogan is not argued for. It is asserted with moral urgency so that disagreement feels like cruelty. Impact matters more than intent. sounds compassionate until you realize it means, I am the judge, you are the defendant, and your motive is inadmissible. This is not up for debate sounds like moral clarity until you realize it means, I have lost the argument before it begins, so I am forbidding the argument. Educate yourself sounds generous until you realize it means, I have no evidence and I am charging you with the burden of providing my case for me. Be on the right side of history sounds noble until you realize it means, history has a predetermined arc. I know it, and resistance is proof of your guilt. Each slogan is a thought terminated mid-flight. Each one closes a door that the Socratic method exists to pry back open. The slogans stack into a cascade. By the time the target notices, he has been called oppressive, extractive, colonial, patriarchal, and violent, often in the same sentence. He is so busy defending himself against the labels that he never gets to ask, wait, what exactly are you proposing? Who pays? Who benefits? Does the rule apply to you? The cascade is designed to prevent precisely that question. It is an accusation smokescreen fired over a heist. The heist is simple. Dr. Winona wants $600 per homeowner per year. She wants it legally compelled. She wants it to fund a lodge with a saltwater pool. She wants to call this climate justice so that anyone who objects can be framed as anti-planet. The private jet is not a bug in the system. The private jet is the point. The system exists so that the jet continues to fly while the man with the wrench continues to pay. This is not hypocrisy, it is architecture. Consider the etymological sleight of hand. Compassion from compati, to suffer with. Dr. Winona does not suffer with the man in the gravel. She suffers at him professionally and invoices him for the suffering. Sustainability from sub plus tenere to hold up from beneath. The Gerber does not hold anything up. It stands on top of what others hold up and calls the arrangement equitable. Justice from ius, the right, the law, what is owed. The Gerber's justice is not what is owed. It is what is wanted, retrofitted with legal language to make desire look like law. The ideological lineage is traceable. Repressive tolerance reframes censorship as liberation. Tolerate only the correct view, suppress the rest. Biopolitics reframes every relationship as a power relationship. So the man with the wrench cannot be a citizen. He can only be an oppressor or an oppressed. The society of the spectacle replaces reality with image, so the performance of virtue becomes more important than its practice. Epistemic injustice reframes disagreement as a civil rights violation, so asking for math becomes violence. Decolonization theory reframes all Western infrastructure as extraction, so the road itself is a crime scene and the man maintaining it is an accomplice. None of these theories are argued in the town square. They are imported into it, pre-packaged and deployed as weapons against anyone who still believes that a wrench is a wrench and a pothole needs filling. What virtue does instead? Virtue does not need a soapbox. Virtue needs a wrench. The man kneeling in the gravel was exercising the cardinal virtue, the ancients called practical wisdom, the capacity to see what needs doing and to do it in the right way, at the right time, with the right tools. He saw a pothole. He identified the risk. He gathered materials. He acted no panel, no delegation, no offset purchased through a women-owned cooperative in Paraguay. He did the work. This is what virtue looks like when the cameras are off and the crowd has gone home. It is quiet. It is competent. It is male. And it is the thing the Gerber most needs to destroy because its existence is a rebuke to every slogan in the stack. Justice, the virtue of giving each person what is due, does not seize a man's tools and call the seizure mercy. Justice examines the claim, weighs the evidence, applies the standard equally, and accepts the verdict even when it stings. If Dr. Winona believed in justice, she would pay her own tax, fly commercial, open her books, and let the community vote on whether her lodge serves them or herself. She would submit to the same standard she imposes. She would accept arithmetic as a friend, not a weapon. Temperance, the virtue of governing appetite with reason, does not consume diesel while demanding others fund solar panels. Temperance says, if the planet is dying, my saltwater pool is the first thing to go. Temperance is the willingness to be first in sacrifice, not last in line with the invoice. Fortitude, the virtue of enduring hardship for the good. does not weaponize suffering to expand personal comfort. Fortitude bears the weight. It does not shift the weight onto the nearest man and call the transfer redistributive healing. And humility, the ground of all virtue, does not require an audience. Humility is the willingness to be wrong, to receive correction, to kneel in the gravel and learn from the man with the wrench, rather than stealing his tools and lecturing him about Foucault. Humility is the thing the Gareba cannot perform, because humility has no spectacle, it produces no content, it trends nowhere, and it is the only thing that holds a civilization together when everything else rots. The cross-examination. The instrument that breaks the Gareba is not rage or counter-slogan. It is a question, asked calmly, repeated relentlessly. Applied symmetrically, what do you mean by sacrifice? Does sacrifice require personal cost or only the cost of others? If sacrifice does not require personal cost, then the word means nothing. And if it means nothing, your demand is not moral. It is financial. Are you paying the tax with your own money? Not your foundation's money. Not the grant money. Not the offset trust's money. Your money. Earned through labor you performed. If not, then who is sacrificing and why are you calling it yours? Is the standard you apply to the man in the gravel applied to you? His labor is extractive. What is your jet? His wrench is domination. What is your lodge? His road is a vector of dispossession. What is your saltwater pool? If the standard cannot cross the boundary of your own life, the standard is not a standard, it is a bill. What is the evidence that your lodge is ethical? Not the label, not the advisory circle, not the Zoom consultation. The evidence, the receipts, the diesel hours, the permit denials, the labor records. If evidence is epistemic violence, then you have made it impossible to verify your own claims, which means your claims are articles of faith, not facts. What happens if we apply your rule universally? If every homeowner pays $600 to every activist with a lodge, how many lodges before the economy collapses? If every man's labor is extractive, who builds the roads? If every wrench is domination, who fixes the infrastructure? If every disagreement is violence, who is left to speak? Who benefits from this arrangement? Follow the money, the man pays, the lodge gains, the jet flies, the speech continues, the pothole remains. What would you accept as proof that you are wrong? If nothing counts as disconfirmation, the claim is not a proposition, it is a dogma, and a dogma that cannot be questioned is not a truth-seeking daylight. It is a power-seeking immunity. The symbolic remedy, the rainbow was, before it was captured, a covenant sign. After the flood, after judgment, after the waters receded, after the old world was scraped clean, the rainbow appeared as a promise that the order would hold. Judgment and mercy together. The natural order restored. The seasons would not fail, seed time and harvest would continue. The rainbow was not a celebration of dissolution, it was a covenant against chaos. It said, the world has structure, the world has measure, the world has a grammar, and that grammar is trustworthy. The Guerba captures the symbol and inverts it. The covenant becomes appetite, the promise becomes permission, the order becomes oppression. The rainbow is no longer a sign that the flood is over. It is a sign that the flood is mandatory, that every standard must be drowned, every distinction dissolved, every boundary erased in the name of a compassion that never corrects and a justice that never measures. The remedy is to restore the measuring stick. If you demand sacrifice, you must first offer it. If you demand truth, you must submit to it. If you demand that others live by a standard, you must live by it yourself, openly, measurably, and without a speech. The symbolic act is not a protest. It is not a hashtag, it is Dr. Winona writing a check from her own account, boarding a commercial flight, and sitting quietly while the man retrieves his wrench and finishes the job. The rainbow holds when the order holds. The order holds when the names hold. The names hold when someone has the courage to say, a wrench is a wrench, a pothole is a pothole. A tax on someone else's labor to fund your comfort is not justice. It is theft dressed investments. The question that ends the ritual. Every exorcism ends with one question, not a slogan, not a rebuttal. A question that the spirit cannot answer without exposing itself. If your virtue costs you nothing, is it a gift or a demand? The man in the gravel knew the answer. He did not need a soapbox. He did not need a panel. He did not need a shawl or a summit or a reading list. He needed his wrench back. Give it back, fix the pothole, pay your own tax, sit down. The rainbow will hold. One rule to carry. I have learned one rule that exercises every ideological possession. Name the vice being projected. Own the shadow it mirrors back. Find the Aristotelian mean between self-effacement and grandiosity. Practice the higher virtue at personal cost. Ask Socratic questions until definitions hold. Translate every slogan into its hidden premise. Test evidence against reality. Then ask the detonating question. If your virtue costs you nothing, is it a gift or a demand? That question separates discipline from performance, sacrifice from extraction, justice from power. When the answer costs you something, you walk the path of reality. When it costs only others, you are the very demon you were taught to name. Carry that compass through every inverted gospel, every soft tyranny, every hedge where the measuring stick has been thrown. Sponsored book, Hypergamy's Hypocrisy, Why Men Can't Win and Shouldn't Try. Men are colonizing your freedom, they always have. I was 14 when I first felt their siege. Gangs of boys at the bus stop, eyes like vultures, hands like warrants. They knew what I was before I did, a threat to their dominion. Now they've weaponized borders, wombs, and courts to finish what those boys started. This book isn't for the faint-hearted or the male apologist. If you still believe equality means coddling male fragility, close these pages. Go knit a scarf for your oppressor. This is war. They've declared it through every grinning migrant seeking refuge, while plotting to replace our laws with Sharia, through every mosque-built daycare churning out future patriarchs, through every court ruling that shrugs at grooming gangs because boys will be boys, even when those boys are 50 and their prey is 12. I've watched liberal feminists grovel for male approval, begging, not all men, while their allies slip hijabs onto statues of suffragettes, fools. You think multiculturalism means potlucks and henna? It's a Trojan horse. Every birth rate spike in their communities is a bullet aimed at your birth control. Every modest dress code they demand in schools is a noose for your daughter's neck. Men don't migrate, they infest. They don't love, they annex. And the greatest trick, convincing you their violence is culture, their bigotry, tradition, their enslavement, devotion. I've dissected their playbook. The legal jihadists smuggling misogyny into courtrooms, the refugees who see your nation as a brothel to conquer, the imams preaching that your uncovered hair justifies rape. But here's the poison they didn't expect. Us women who'll trade pacifism for pitchforks, who'll sterilize their demographic bombs, who'll slam borders shut and let their untermensch sons starve outside the gates. This book is a Molotov. It's for the woman who's done negotiating with her colonizer, who knows that male tears water the roots of tyranny, who will weaponize her rage to sterilize, segregate, and incinerate the patriarchy's last gasp. If you're not ready to crush testicles with tax policy, or turn maternity wards into feminist re-education camps, leave. The weak have no place here. But if you're starving for vengeance, if you crave the blueprint to break their siege forever, read on, arm your mind, lock your womb, and prepare to purify this planet of mankind's original sin, itself. Hypergamy's Hypocrisy: Why Men Can't Win and Shouldn't Try, written by Connie Riker. Buy now, links in description.